You've tuned into the Bellingham podcast for the week of April 25th and May 3rd, 2021, episode 188. From that city by the Salish Sea, I am AJ Barsay, and on this episode, Chris takes a step back away from the mic. He just needs a little bit of a break, and, he's off doing his clandestine missions. But what that means for you, dear listener, is this is a back-to-back episode. Now, you are well aware that the Bellingham podcast is radio-friendly 30-minute episodes, but not this one. This is going to be an hour-long episode that I had with a special foreign correspondent for the Bellingham podcast, and this will run for this week as well as the next. So, without any further ado, let's dive into this extended edition of the Bellingham podcast, episode 188. So, as everybody will know, the Bellingham podcast, as Chris Powell always says, we're bad. Or excuse me, I gotta get my baritone on. We're bad. We're worldwide. And this week's a little bit different. From the Bellingham podcast, Office of Field Correspondents, the UK branch, if you would. On the mic today, we have Dan. He goes by Tamley_moments on Instagram, but more importantly, he is the host of the Zulu Time podcast out of Her Majesty's United Kingdom. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hey, AJ, how you getting on, man?
I'm doing well. I should say good afternoon or good evening to you.
It is the evening for me, yes. But, I'll say good morning to you. It's fine. It's no problem.
I appreciate it. You probably have a cuppa as well, so,
I do, as a stoic British man, as it were. Tea drink. In my work, the phrase of choice was for it was an English tea drinker or something like that. It's like basically, how everyone has gone to unique independent coffee shops, and obviously it seems to be like a good thing when you come out of the military, you set up an independent coffee shop. What's quite funny is the fact that there's very few people who have set up tea versions of that. So I'm one of the few who is now renowned in my office to drink from independent tea companies, effectively. So it was something like tea drinking English gent or something like that. I don't think gent was actually used. I think it was another word, but I'll submit that.
Yeah, I get that. Thank you. We have to stay here in the U.S. We got to stay clean for the FCC. They are listening. But anyway, so just to give a rundown. I mean, you are an Analog Explorer alumni, but for the Bellingham podcast, folks, why don't you give us a little rundown of who you are, what groovy show you run and stuff, and what you do?
I actually head up the Zulu Time podcast, which is a watch-based podcast, and obviously that's how one of our shared hobbies that we've got. Effectively, it centralizes around the use of military watches, the use of time within a military setting. And obviously out the back of that, we look at the history of military watches, and we look at military watches being used today. But then obviously we tie in other things such as charity. We also look at getting outdoors as well, which is obviously a similar vein to the stuff that you do with the Bellingham podcast. So yeah. That's a little bit about myself.
And so today what we're going to do, and we're going to talk about one of your charity drops that you got coming up, because this is like your second one for your show. But before we dive into that, the outdoors aspect. So to set up this episode, obviously it has been a year plus in pandemic. And I have been longing to get back over to your side of the continent. And I know that a lot of people listening to the show is also doing the same. But here in the Pacific Northwest, under lockdown, hey, the woods is fair game. So there's been ample trekking coming on here. So I wanted to bridge the two. Because I know a lot of listeners are adventure travelers who I have a friend who listens to the show. Shout out to Clarissa, the @vegan at Bellingham. She her and her spouse did a trek. I can't remember where in the UK, but literally it's like this trek package where they set up camp in one spot and they take a 5-day trek going to different places, not hostels, but different campsites and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was very much pre-pandemic. But, coming out of pandemic, I know there's going to be a lot of people here in the upper left of the United States that want to go over to the UK. And so that's why I wanted to tap you, field correspondent of the Bellingham podcast. Give us the insider treks of some of the places. Like if I had a layover or if I'm going to spend a week in the UK, where do I go?
As you know, AJ, from our endless conversations about mountaineering and outdoors adventures, I'm obviously a rock climber. I say obviously, those who don't know, I'm a rock climber. I'm a rock climbing instructor. But when I decide that I want to do an outdoors adventure, for me, there's two main places that I think, like I said, if you're going to make the trip to UK, I think you need to go to. And actually, they're both located in Wales. So the first one, if you are into rock climbing or more rock climbing than mountaineering, I would say you need to get into Snowdonia National Park. Okay, so Snowdonia National Park is in North Wales. There's obviously loads of places that you can stay. There's loads of really nice little picturesque kind of Welsh villages there. All of them are set up for outdoors adventures, and when I mean they're set up for that, is it literally is you'll go obviously into these villages or pass through these villages. There'll be little bed and breakfast places for you to stay at. There'll be nice local coffee shops and places to get something to eat and pubs, and then the only shops there you'll find will be stuff to do with mountaineering, climbing, kayaking, and all that kind of stuff. So it's all kind of geared towards that within Snowdonia National Park. But my favourite place, or one of my favourite climbs that I've done and completed out there, is actually Trefan. Okay, so Trefan is considered like a classic climb. Okay, so obviously you can hike it, trek it, and you can climb elements of it in different faces. But it dominates quite a large part of Snowdonia. So it's one of those, like I said, it's a classic route, or elements of it are considered classic routes. And when you look at the rock climbing guide and obviously your mountaineering guides, they do say that if you have the ability to do it, you try and tick off the classic, the routes that are obviously in those areas. So for me, the first one I would tell people to go and have a look at is Snowdonia. However, there is one in South Wales which has got a link a little bit more to the military, and that is one that actually when you go through basic training with the British Army, you actually do have to do. So you don't do it to the level that it is famed for. Okay, so I'm now going to take you into what I like to call I want to say it's deep and dark and miserable. It isn't. But when you go through British Army training, it's always raining, it's always cold, it's always a little bit miserable, but you have fun on the way. And that's what outdoors adventures are about, isn't it? It's testing yourself, and getting out there and challenging yourself. And I think there's a really good a good expression that I've seen lately, and it's quite good, I think, for COVID as well. It's endeavor through adversity, and I think that's something that's, I think that's a fitting statement for the pandemic, but also for the Brecon Beacons, especially in winter. So if people don't fancy Snowdonia and but they still want to do Wales, I'd tell them to go to the Brecon Beacons, which is in the south of Wales. And obviously, if you're coming over from America, to make that trip, the good thing about being in the south of Wales is also closely located to Cardiff, which is obviously the capital city. And I don't know about you, but when I visit other countries and when I go over to different countries and do different trips, I always try and say that I've landed or seen the capital city for a day. So
yeah, same here.
The benefit you've got with the Brecon Beacons is you can go to the Brecon Beacons for a weekend, and you can also see Cardiff because it's actually, relatively close. Okay.
That's rad.
The exact trek, as you like to call it, in the Brecon Beacons, which people have to do, or the peak that people have to do, is Pen y Fan. Okay, so Pen y Fan is famous because it is used by the British Special Forces. Okay, and it's a part of what the military like to call the hills phase. Okay, the hills phase of selection. And effectively, it is a thing that's nicknamed the fan dance. And you start at the bottom of the fan, you climb to the top of the fan, you go back down the bottom of the fan, and then you go back up it and then back down it again. So you do it twice, effectively. So yeah, go do the fan dance. And like I said, it's famous for the military, because obviously if you're into your military history and you're into that kind of world, that is the route. And you can do the route, obviously, that is used by selection at certain times of the year. You will see military personnel being, ran up and down that mountain effectively in that route, in all their gear, training and or actually on selection. But what's interesting about the fan dance now is similar to how you mentioned that a friend of yours came across to UK and obviously kind of booked on a camping kind of, like I said, a bit of a tour where there's a bit of a route. You can actually now sign up for civilian run fan dance competitions. So you can actually do the route, you can get a medal at the end and you can do various, different parts of it and, gain your kind of status on that. So yeah, penny fan, do the fan dance. If hills and mountaineering isn't your thing and you still decide to go to Brecon, I've got one more thing up my sleeve for you.
Okay, what is it?
What's your opinion on going underground?
So yeah, I like being above ground, and I like to have altitude. Chris probably listened to the whole fan dance. He's like, nope, this mountain goat doesn't do that. But I mean, I think it's cool, like spelunking and all that type of jazz. But I'm one of those people that just like, man goes in ground, earth shakes, man don't come out of ground again. So like, but I still think it's cool. But what do you got? Okay. What do you got?
So I've got a thing. I've got a thing. I've got there's a company, and it's an area within the Brecon Beacons, and it's called Go Below. You're already looking a bit. Out of your depth, literally. Out
of your depth. No, dude, you shot me the link and I'm like, this literally looks like the scene from that movie, like The Descent. It literally looks like the filming set of The Descent. Dude, horrible movie, horrible outcome, and you want me to do what?
Yeah. So I want you to go below the mountain, basically. AJ. So effectively you sign on for various levels of going beneath some of the mountains within the Brecon Beacons. Okay, but it's not just caving. There's a little bit of abseiling involved. There's some climbing, and you can even get down to the water table. Okay, underneath the mountains, and actually underwater kayak in a cave during your route.
Cool. That's cool.
So that's really cool. So yeah, Go Below. The other thing that Go Below also do, it's an optional end on one of the routes that you can pick. Effectively, you can do a free fall abseil in a cave, in the pitch dark, if you want to. It is optional. It is optional. You don't have to do it. But what's interesting about the Go Below routes, and obviously, being a little bit, I guess, I'm going to say health warning on this, is the fact that some of the routes, guys, if you do come across and do it, check with Go Below, because some of them, you actually, once you start, effectively you can't turn around. Okay, so it's safer to continue. They do have obviously the duration of how long it should take you to do it, the kind of things that you're expected to do on there. And obviously effectively what I'm basically getting at here, guys, is obviously if you do choose to do that, tailor your trip with Go Below to what your abilities are. Okay, because at the end of the day, caving is an unnatural thing. But then if I combined you caving with a bit of climbing, and then you do an abseil, and then you go on a kayak underneath a mountain, they're all very unique skill sets alone, but then you throw them in together, and then you put the fact that you're underground, in the dark, it could be quite a challenge. So that's the other option. However, you also like altitude, and another thing that Go Below also are linked to is I believe it's Europe's longest zip line.
Now that's rad.
You can zip line basically down the Welsh valleys, and it takes you over the old slate mines and the slate kind of parts there, where obviously all the slate's been obviously dug up and all that kind of stuff. So you can see all of that kind of stuff, which is quite cool. I believe it is the longest zip line in Europe. It's definitely the longest zip line in UK, but I'm pretty sure off the top of my head it's the longest zip line in Europe. So Brecon kind of, encompasses everything for you, really. And like I said, if you're making that trip, you can also come to the capital city. So yeah.
No, dude, that's great. And what's also great is like the whole aspect of like your parallel on the globe and our parallel here in the Pacific Northwest is relatively speaking pretty close. Like like when you say like, oh, it's rainy and it's cold and it's dark and it's got gray skies, people here in the in the upper left of the USA are just like, yeah, that means it's a Sunday. Like like right now it's 8 degrees and raining, 8 degrees Celsius and raining outside right now. So like, I think Wales and full disclosure, like next time that I do make it over to the UK, like Wales is on me and my wife's bucket list. Like Penny Fan is definitely my trek that I want to do the next time I get over there. So like, packing to getting, before we segue to the next part, but like, packing to go over to these treks that you mentioned is really not a large ask for any outdoor enthusiasts here in the Pacific Northwest. All the kit that we have normally will well adapt, as long as you can get it on a plane, to the treks that you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other good thing is that the Snowdonia National Park and the Brecon Beacons are actually quite small. I mean, fundamentally, yes, they're large for UK, but they are small, and you could spend, like you said, a long weekend. You could see and do pretty much all of those things, or all of the different peaks that you wanted to, either in Snowdonia or, like I said, do the fan dance one day and go below the next day and the zip line the other day. You know what I mean? You can compress that, but if you wanted to do a longer experience within UK, there's I've put it into our show notes. We've only spoken about one of the peaks, but there is obviously the UK 3-peak challenge, which obviously is across the UK, and that will take in Snowdonia, it'll take in Ben Nevis. The other one is Scafell Pike. So Scafell Pike is in Lake Windermere, in the Lake District, which is in the northwest, and that's again a very good place for your hiking and your mountain experiences, and obviously you got the lakes, so you can also combine that with kayaking, canoeing, paddleboard, and all that kind of stuff. So there's that. But you know what I mean, like if people planned their trip, there's stuff like the 3-peak challenges are really good, because it will actually get you out and across most of the UK. The thing is with the 3-peak challenge, if you actually signed up for it, you have to do it in a set time as well, and effectively you end up like, you basically have to have a team, because you'd have to have a support team to effectively drive you while you then sleep in the vehicle, and then you run the mountains, and then you come back down. So it is a bit of a grizz, as we like to say in the military. It's a bit cheeky. So maybe leave that one for after you've like conditioned yourself. But you know what I mean, even if you took in one of the peaks, I actually say that Scafell Pike is the one to take.
So I appreciate that you talked about things going below ground and on ground. Here in the US, in Bellingham, I've talked about something above ground, and that is that you might be listening to us on KMRE 102.3 FM and community powered and community streaming at kmre.org worldwide, even though over there in the UK.
Boom.
So let's dive into gear, because like trekking, whether it's over there or over here, like, we all have our kit preferences and stuff. And you and I have been swapping out some kit during the pandemic and stuff. But out of a tip of the hat to the watch fam and also your show, what's on your, let's start with the watches we got on our wrist, just as a shout out. So what do you have, what are you wearing today on our show?
So it's very fitting, because it's actually the company that I'm going to bring up in my gear list for you. So I'm wearing an Elliot Brown Holton Professional Diver's watch. Okay, it's very nice. It's a really cool company. Elliot Brown are headquartered in Dorset, which is on the Jurassic coast down in the south of England. They take all their inspiration from surfing, mountaineering, mountain biking, as you like to say, the go anywhere and do anything adventure watch kind of thing. Okay, they've got various different styles. The Holton is their is part of their more, I guess, like I said, it's in the name. It's the professional range. They're all, I class all of their watches as professional watches, though, or the ability to do what we want. However, it's got professional in the name because it was developed with close ties to the British military. So that's the watch that's on my wrist. What about you, AJ? What have you got?
I've got the watch that has been on every wrist check in the last year, and that's the Baltic Aquascaf Bronze, one of the numbered editions.
Nice.
Yep,
very
it's
nice.
As I've alluded to on our show, and because I'm getting close to my anniversary date. So I put this on at the beginning of the pandemic, and really short of a handful of times, like literally a handful of times, it's been a year-long watch fast, to kind of shout out to the Two Broke Watch Snobs guys. And that was largely because I wanted to see what bronze could do in the Pacific Northwest. And I mean, I've taken it under the water, I've taken it up on mountains and stuff, and it is dark. I mean, it is not the shiny that it used to be. But I'm going to write up I have a piece that I've been working on all year, which is basically a pandemic, a pandemic on the wrist, as it were, a 1 year on the wrist. and specifically how my bronze is patinaed and some other stuff that is going to be coming down the pike. So there's a little bit of a teaser for the watch fam folk. But also, I do have to give you a specific shout out because I'm wearing an Elliot Brown heritage strap, which I'm absolutely smitten with this strap. I love the webbing and specifically the buckle, man. Elliot Brown nailed it out of the park with the buckle.
Yeah, it's a very cool strap. And I'm really glad you're enjoying it. I think what's cool is the fact that it's their own design. You know what I mean? Everything about that strap is their own design. It, like you said, there's other straps out there. We've spoken a lot about straps in the past together, and obviously, you know, you've highlighted it on previous episodes of the Bellingham podcast. And we've also got very good friends, obviously, you know, who are in that side of the watch industry, you know, and they all offer different and unique options. But I think what's cool with the Elliot Brown one is that it's you know, it's like you say, it's patented, it's their own design, it's unique to them, and it's an affordable strap, you know what I mean? And like you said, I've worn it in very arduous conditions as well, and I've not had a problem. You've clearly not lost your Baltic, you know, so I think it's just a very good all-round strap to wear.
It is. So let's get into the kit, shall we? And we've kind of split it up based off of our terrestrial locations for some of our kit and stuff. But in traditional TikTok fashion here on the show, I'll be talk if you be tick. So why don't you lead off? Okay. What's your first selection?
So obviously we've done the wrist check, so that's tick done on that. Yeah. But my first kit one for you would be Montaigne. Okay, the brand Montaigne. Okay. So Montaigne are a British mountaineering and outdoors kind of brand, very similar to that of, you know, Arc'teryx and all that kind of stuff. But for me, Montaigne walking trousers / climbing mountaineering trousers are some of the best bits of kit that you can get. Okay, so what's really good, AJ, about Montaigne trousers, they're quick drying, okay, which is always good. Even though they're very obviously thin and they're obviously a technical layer, they keep you warm. Okay, and obviously that's quite important when you're out and about, especially like I said, in conditions which are adverse, you know, wet, windy. But more importantly, I'm quite height conscious. Okay, I'm a short man, and Montaigne provide for a whole range of sizes. Okay, so Montaigne's technical trousers line, or in your case in America you call them the pant line, are really, really good. So if you can get hold of them over in the States, I would encourage you to do so. If you can't, well, it just gives you an excuse to come to England and come and
that's what I was just thinking. I love it. Yeah, no, I was checking them out now, and yeah, totally. Next time I'm over there, I probably will pick up a pair.
Yeah, I think the exact model that I've got are called the Terra pants.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
So yeah, I think they're the exact model, or the exact, you know, style. But they are absolutely fantastic. The best, like I said, the best kind of climbing technical mountaineering trousers I've ever owned. So there you go.
That's rad.
Tick.
Now you're getting it. So for me, because I'm on daddy duty. As a matter of fact, even this weekend I'm on daddy duty, and so this was opening day here in Whatcom County for fishing. So my son and I were out, and he got to try out his brand new piece of kit that he earned from dad from an adventure school, which is something that I've been doing with him for over a year. And he earned his first backpack. So he has his own 12-liter. It's really cute. Tarn by REI, which I believe also for our Canadian listeners, there's a version of the Tarn from the Canadian Mech, which is their REI. But this is great. It's if you're like me and you're like, okay, I got a little one, and they're also getting prepped for kindergarten. And you want a backpack that can go kind of like the post I wrote on my blog so many years ago, which was like, you know, go from the office to the trailhead for straps. This is the kiddo version of from the trailhead to the schoolyard of backpacks. Yeah. It's got a little sternum strap with a safety whistle on it. It's got padded shoulders, and it's 12 liters. I mean, but for a little, it's just enough to put snacks, books, everything that you would need to have for a little one on a trek, and then throw the rest in your sack as the parent. But anyway, yeah, I've looked at a few other packs for kids, and this is the one that's it's affordable. I think it's like $40 USD, and you know, it's a really good pack for him. He loves it. So talk.
So for me, man, Osprey. Okay, so follows on from backpacks for littles. We're looking at backpacks for adults now. Okay, so Osprey Europe, they make obviously a wide range of mountaineering outdoors backpacks, and like you said, you can get various different styles, and you can get obviously various different leaserages. Okay, so I've got large ones for longer treks where obviously it was properly mountaineering, we're out and having to carry everything, right through to, like you said, more specific niche kind of day sacks, which I will take for climbing. So my ones are more specific to climbing, and the models that I have owned are the Scarab, as well as the Talon / Talon 2s. Okay, so they're the climbing specific ones. I cannot fault these day sacks for the life of me. They're absolutely fantastic. I've had them for years. But what's really cool is, like you said, you can buy they, like I said, similar to what you said with REI, is the fact that you can take them from the office to the mountain and back. What's really good is that because of the various different styles, you can find one that will tailor what you want. So, they're accessible backpacks, but what I mean, they're still, £70 upwards. If you don't want to buy, multiple bags for work, then you won't have to. You will be able to find one. But what's really good is obviously they've thought about the different environments in which you can use them for. So, you've got like aerated back mesh padding, you've got aerated shoulder straps and all that kind of stuff. You've got emergency whistles. You've got all of them pretty much waterproof. You know what I mean? So they're all very good backpacks, and it's just about finding the ones for you. Like I said, my experience is on the Talons and the Scarab line, and then larger packs. I think mine's the Aether line, and they're just very, very good. So, if you're into going outdoors, and often, I would tell you to look at Osprey packs. And what's really good is if you're an international traveler, they pack down flat. You know what I mean? And that's really important. So, you can empty it, you can pack it down flat, or, because of the sizing, you can actually just use it as your hand luggage. You know what I mean? So there you go.
Well, speaking of luggage and stuff, I picked up a new travel bag for when I can go into a plane, and I've been looking at Cotopaxi for, I don't know, probably since they were first. I think they were a Kickstarter brand, or they started as crowdsourcing back in the day, and really eco-responsible company and stuff. But and they've got a cute llama for a logo. Can't go wrong with that. But they very much make a bag that is it bifolds open, so that you have kind of like that soft shell version of like a roller bag when you go on a plane. But it's a backpack, and it's designed for like adventure trekkers. So like you could take this bag, stow all of your stuff to get to a continent, dump it off in your B&B or your hotel or whatever, kit it up for when you're going to go, and that bag can perform both, on the plane, in a city, and then on a mountain as well. They're a bit pricey, depending on what line you get. The Alpha 42 is what I just got because they finally released it. Thank you, Cotopaxi, in green. It's like a Pacific, almost like a forest green. And I have not been able to use it because I can't travel anywhere. But I look forward to being able to use it when I can.
Well, I look forward to you being able to use it as well, because it probably means that you're on a flight to UK to come out and
probably to Cardiff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've just realised my next kit note is actually another Welsh. It's got another Welsh link. There you go. So DMM Wales, guys. So DMM Wales is a British. Obviously more specifically Welsh, but it is a British mountaineering rock climbing company. What they do is they do all of your safety gear, your carabiners, your harnesses, ropes, quick draws, all the stuff that you would need for sport climbing, trad climbing, and all your accessories, right down to bouldering mats, bouldering chalk bags, and all that kind of stuff. They are the best mountaineering rock climbing equipment safety equipment that I have ever used. My entire sport rack, all my quick draws and all my carabiners are by DMM Wales. Cool. What's really cool is if you ever get to visit, you can actually ring them up and have a factory tour. They're very open about how they test their gear, what they do, and they will actually take some gear and they will test it to destruction in front of you, because they're they're that willing and open and transparent about it to walk people through. Just because you pick up a carabiner in an outdoor shop, and you'll see you'll see that it'll say something on the more decorative ones, obviously not for use for climbing, and then obviously you see on the technical ones it says that it'll give you the Newton force in which you can effectively climb on that. And for those who haven't climbed, or just getting into climbing, or just are unaware of the forces that these carabiners can take, you can actually you can pull a car with them. You know what I mean? Yeah. It doesn't matter how high you take a fall, you're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it sounds horrible, but your body will break before that carabiner will break. You know what I mean? So, but if you go there and look at the factory, they'll show it to you as well. You know what I mean? So that's what I like about them as well. That, and also very independent. It goes back to something that I like to do, which is supporting independent brands. So DMM.
So in the independent brand vein, I believe they're based actually here in Washington State, out of Preston. Cascade Mountain Tech. They're like, if you go to REI, like REI has their own brand of stuff, Black Diamond, and also like so on and so forth. Well, Cascade Mountain Tech, all of their kit is really accessible. And the kit that I'm going to point out of theirs, because I've tried a lot of them, is I really like their trekking poles. They're the ones that I use regularly, and the reason why I like them is the ergonomics, the lightweight nature of them. Even in their polycarbonate, I don't have their carbon fiber or anything like that, and they pack down short so that you can really get them into your stays and your bag if you've got them. Some of them, like the REI ones, they pack a little bit longer. I think I picked up my trekking poles like for a pair. I got them for like $35 or something.
Nice.
And they've got all the bells and whistles that ergonomics that you'd want, with like the handles are actually formed so that they fit within your hand, and you can also get it in a cork option or a rubber option if that's importance to you. If you're looking for trekking poles and you don't want to spend Black Diamond arm and leg, take a look at Cascade Mountain Tech.
I mean, I would suggest to anyone to get trekking poles anyway if you're going to be doing a long hike or a long series of treks and mountaineering and going up on long distances, mainly because it just saves your knees and your joints, especially coming down the mountain. And this is another thing, is something we've spoken of before, is getting to the top is optional. Getting down is an absolute
mandatory.
100 mandatory. I want to say, I say I'm getting old. I'm obviously not, but even I start to feel it after a long day out on the mountain when you've come back down. If I didn't have trekking poles or something to support your weight as you're going down the mountain, you do feel it, don't you? Especially on your knees. It's and for $35, it will save you a world of pain, as it were, afterwards. You know what I mean? So absolutely, I'm all for that. Mountain Equipment brand, they do some fantastic warm layers, which I think is important, and they're good because they're active warm layers. One of the best ones I've ever got was actually through the Army Mountaineering Association, which is quite cool. I've got a stowable gilet, and it's one of the ones that it folds down into its own pocket. It's a stow pocket. It literally folds down to about the size of a phone. Nice. And it's a Polartec one as well. So it'll keep you warm. Cool. It's breathable. It's loosely water resistant on the front, but obviously breathable on the back, which obviously helps. So if you are fortunate to come to UK and have a trek where it's not raining, you'll have the ability to obviously wear, I would personally, wear that gilet as my main warm layer when I'm moving, and like I said, what's really good is the fact that it vents your heat correctly and it maintains that. But also the added pockets that you've got from, I don't like having stuff in my trousers when I'm on the mountain. I prefer to have it up on my chest or in my day sack. So the added pockets and the ability to just stow things into a gilet, I find it a lot more simpler and to hand when I'm on the mountain. So check out Mountain Equipment's gilets because they're very, very good. So
I dig it. No, I'm the same way, especially, I don't like having anything, especially my leg pockets, but even just in pockets in general. Like I like to have everything free and clear or in my pack. Recently, like within the last year, I picked up a smartwatch, and I'm going to use that very loosely. I'm going to call it a connected watch. I picked up a Garmin Instinct, the non-solar
Yeah.
version, because it was cheaper on the secondary market. And I've loved this thing because, one, I don't have a need for the smart connected features for like messaging and stuff. I don't care. The thing about it I do care about is it's an ABC watch. It gives me a altitude barometer and compass. And specifically, I wanted something because I was with my son, and I have a very aging iPhone with a very aged battery. So I was concerned, especially with the temperatures remaining cold here in the Pacific Northwest, about that consumes battery. And not that I don't know where I'm going, but like I like having it just in case, having a breadcrumb map, being able to know, if we need to bug out, we can. So the Garmin Instinct does a breadcrumb map that works really well. It has all of the acronyms for all the satellites, GLONASS, Galileo for over there in the EU, and then GPS over here. And the thing that sold me on this thing, honestly, is the battery. Like, this thing can do 7 days without even blinking without a charge. And the fact that the Garmin took this and then was like, let's add a solar panel to it. And it's like an infinite, as long as it sees light, it's infinitely charged and ready to go. I think that is like, from a technologist standpoint, like that's the secret sauce for this to be a tool, both, for the office and for the trailhead. Now, I will say it is a very chunky monkey for case design and stuff for the office.
It depends what office you're in, though, AJ. If you're in my office, mate, like this, it's probably considered quite a small watch.
Sure, but I'm usually not in the belly of planes, but but like for a typical outdoor enthusiast, just throw it in your bag and stuff so that it can still lock on to GPS. Like you don't have to have it on your wrist if you don't want to. But as a tool, like it's thick enough also so that, like you and I talked about offline, the interface and the buttons is the thing that makes this thing great, because you can access everything within 2 clicks. No touchscreen needed or nada. Like it's just very intuitive, very tool watch centric kit. So Garmin Instinct, I can't laud this thing enough. And I bought mine, secondhand.
I think the other thing is with Garmin and other brands that do, like you said, connected ABC watches. So, the other main competitor I'm thinking for this side of the pond would be Sunto. I think the benefit that you've got with Suntos and Garmin's as well is the fact that they support the software and the actual device for a lot longer than you'll ever get with Apple.
Android,
plenty of those, but like you said, the thing is that they're also they're very good. They're both those companies stuck in their field and stuck to what they know. You know what I mean? So yes, you can get different versions for your different office, as it were, be it, aviation, mountaineering, diving,
surfing,
and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's fantastic. But like for me, I've owned Garmin's in the past as well. I still own one for exactly the same thing. So when I'm instructing rock climbing and mountaineering, like you said, you have the ability to look at stuff like altimeter, your barometric pressure for if you potentially looking at, possible weather fronts coming in, all that
storm
kind of stuff.
warnings.
And then obviously compass as a backup, because it is a backup. It shouldn't be your main one. But you know what I mean? I just think they're fantastic. And actually they're so good. You may or may not know this, but the US Navy actually started to issue Garmin.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the US Navy, and you'll like this, so it's a little bit of a segue for you. The US Navy from 2018 started to trial this. They issued the Phoenix line of watches to F-18 air crews as backup altimeters. If it was all to go wrong in the aircraft, they could, in theory, you use it as a backup altimeter. And they were testing that, I think, back end of 2018, early 2019. So
crazy.
As far as I'm aware, you haven't lost any F-18s anytime recently. So I did say it worked out quite well.
I hope not. I'm going to have to reach out to the unofficial U.S. Navy correspondence desk of the Bellingham podcast to confirm or deny those statements. But that's kind of my last one. The only other one that I had on my list was the Heritage strap, but I already mentioned on the wrist check. So what's your last kit?
my last piece of kit, and we're all guilty of this. How many times have you ever, set up camp in the dark, AJ? Or how many times have you,
plenty.
Got off the mountain, obviously, to return home, and it's in the dying light, you know what I mean? Or it's dark enough for you to, be a little bit concerned about footing, as an example.
A little bit, yeah. A few times.
Yeah, so we're all guilty of it. It's absolutely fine. It's part of the learning process of going outdoors. But I would always tell people to take a head torch, okay? And I understand that head torches are. Some people look at it and go, "Well, I've got my phone and I can use that little LED light." No, don't do that. Okay.
No.
It's one of the worst things you could do. Mainly because it kills your phone battery very quickly. But also, the thing with a head torch is the fact that it leaves your hands free. And what happens when you are in the dying light and you're coming off the mountain, normally you're trying to get off that mountain very, very quickly. So having hands free is another safety element there for you as well. And it gives you the ability to do things quicker, instead of putting your phone down in an odd way, dropping it or whatever, or not even a phone, just a handheld torch, I think. Right. They're good for certain things, but I think the head torch is always the one. I've put a link in there for the E+ light. Okay. It's a very, very small head torch, but what's really good with Petzl is the fact that they have different modes. So you've got white light, you've got red light, you have an automatic SOS ability to send that signal. But also what's really good is they are waterproof. So you can actually use them down. You can use them down to, I think it's about 3 to 5 meters. If you had to, if you had to. I mean, I wouldn't test it, you know what I mean? Because if I'm 3 to 5 meters underwater and I'm actually on a mountain, I've changed sports very quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've run into what we call a big problem. Maybe you're in a cave, Dan.
Maybe I've materialized in Go Below and I'm underneath the mountain. But the point being is the fact that they're very good, and they are effectively weatherproof. But more importantly, they're small. So what I mean? Cool. I think the E-Light one that I've just mentioned there, I think it is literally about the size of I've got my GoPro here as reference. It's like the size of half a GoPro. You know what I mean? In terms of, it's about the size of the lens actually on a GoPro to give you the dimensions. You know what I mean? So it weighs nothing. But also the headband strap has an emergency whistle on it, and it's cool. Like I said, it's effectively infinitely adjustable to the size of the headband, and that's slightly elasticated as well. So go get one of those. So yeah, that's my last bit of kit for you, mate.
Groovy, man. So for our last bit for the show is always our quality assurance. And I have to change my normal hook is that these picks are picked for you by AJ and Dan for your quality assurance. So I'm going to go first because I only have one. And that is because we're in the vein of trekking and mountaineering. I think there's one name that pretty much every household ever since Free Solo has heard, and that's Alex Honold.
Oh, yes.
So the dude is just a beast. I don't know how else to describe him.
Another level.
Yeah, his hands, literally Sasquatch himself would tremble if he saw the amount of musculature that man has in his hands. So Alex Honold, also a really humble chap. I've seen a lot of different interviews with him and stuff, and he just is who he is, and it's really cool. He's no nonsense, and kind of like you see on some shows, celebrities read mean tweets type of thing. Well, Wired had an interview with him where Alex Honnold answers rock climbing questions from Twitter. And it's really a breath of fresh air because here is a guy who knows his sport, if not probably wrote part of the chapters of the book of his sport. And he just flat out this you can do that. Nobody ever does, but you could do this instead. Or he'll recommend what type of kit he uses and why. And I've seen him in other ones where he does breakdowns of famous climbing scenes in movies like Mission Impossible and stuff. And it's hilarious when he's just that's legit. Oh, I take that back. Now from this point forward, this is totally fake. You would die. He's just very flat when it comes to his thoughts. So I just wanted to throw that out for everybody to check out. But for you, sir, you have some quality assurances that are beyond just media.
Yeah. So I've got one that's media. Two that's media. taking mountaineering from a different approach from Alex Honold, Nims Dai is also another individual that if you're into mountaineering and rock climbing, you probably already know who he is. But he is the ex-Special Forces soldier who recently completed Project Possible, obviously before COVID. And that was obviously the 14 highest mountains in the world. He smashed the record, did it in 6 months and 6 days. Previous to that, it was just shy of 8 years, which is insane. So yeah, go check him out on Instagram. He's got a book out as well. And yeah, he's just, again, made of different things. And I think we should study him for the fact that he's just another level, you know what I mean? In terms of just that person's ability to climb a mountaineer. So yeah, he's pretty cool. The other media that I've got, and then it'll roll into a shameless plug. There's a new podcast, AJ, that's out about watches. Okay, they've just started. They're taking it slow I think in the next couple of episodes, and what they want to do is obviously that they kind of want to look at obviously watch releases, as all watch podcasts do, but they also want to look at other stuff, mainly alcohol of all things. And I know we don't endorse alcohol fully. We don't obviously endorse that if you don't want to do that, and that's absolutely fine. But it's a unique way of looking at watches, and the idea is how they've looked at it is pairing watches with cocktails. Okay,
sure,
and then from that, the idea of how you would make these cocktails. So the podcast is called the Spirit of Time podcast. There you go, it's very good. So yeah, they're, I think, 2 episodes in, so go check them out. They're on Spotify, I believe, Anchor, Google, and Apple. So yeah.
Right. And I believe they're out over here though. I think they're over in California, aren't they?
Yes, they're California based, which is quite funny because they mentioned that in their episodes, and it was actually quite funny because they were mentioning places that I've actually been to. So I was like, oh, okay. You know, cool. as we both know that the only time I've been to America was to California. So yeah, they mentioned places like, oh, I recognize that. I've been there. Right. But yeah, so yeah, check them out. They like I said, they're just started, and you know, I think they take a different approach to watch things, and I think that's a good thing about this hobby, especially watch podcasts, is the fact that we all seem to come at it from different points of view,
angles,
on the same kind of, you know, overall hobby, which is good. Right, shameless plug. Okay, so Timely Moments page, which obviously is my Instagram page, which links to the Zulu Time podcast. Okay, we last month conducted a charity patch drop. Now, what that effectively meant was I had a lot of interest from listeners of the show and people who follow the Timely Moments page for the ability to buy one of my patches. Now, as we've spoken about before, I've highlighted in my own show, you've highlighted on the Bellingham podcast, is that actually these patches are for those who come on the show or have supported the show in various different ways. And effectively, if you give up your time and have an interview with me, talk about watches for an hour or so, you get a patch. That's how it works, you know. And I think that's the best way to do it, you know. And the reason that they're given away is because I don't want to take any money away from the independent makers that I've gone to produce my patches. You know, I don't feel that it's right for me to buy them and then sell them for a perceived profit without that money going towards something. You know, I do the podcast as a hobby, you know, and I kind of want to keep it that way. It's not business. So what we did do, me and Carl, Carl over at Pagoda Patches,
hey Carl,
he makes my patches. We came up with a solution for this. Okay, we did a charity patch drop where 30 patches were sold last month, with all the proceeds going to charity. And we agreed that for the UK drop, as it were, we were going to do a UK and then an America drop. And the way we've done this is the patch drop was the UK one, and that funded money towards SAFA. And SAFA is the Sailors, Soldiers and Air Force Association. And effectively, it's the oldest running tri-service charity to the British military ever. Okay, I've got close familial links to it. I've got a cousin husband effectively works for, or used to work for them. I've supported them in the past, and like I said, they do a lot of very good things for service families, veterans, and individuals, which is really good. We actually raised £220 out of that patch, which I'm really pleased.
Congratulations.
And especially for the fact that, pandemic, guys, charities just stopped getting money, and I think any way that charities can get an influx of money, it doesn't matter whether it's a couple of dollars or a couple of pounds here, everything counts. So I took that idea after the success of that, and I went to another independent small maker, loosely within the watch fam. I say loosely, he's not loosely in the watch fam, he's massively into it because he is massively into watches. But he is a gentleman called Drew. He's in Illinois.
Hey, Drew.
He makes bespoke handkerchiefs. Okay, so his handle on Instagram is ModHanks. It's in the show notes. Go check him out. And effectively, guys, he gave me a limited run of material because effectively he wanted to go to printers. We used my podcast logo for that, and I bought the custom handkerchiefs from him. But we had a gleaming idea, and we decided that, again, some people asked, could they buy these hanks? And initially we said that we weren't ever going to do them because, again, why do them? Because it's a very niche thing. But we've had enough messages about them as well as the patches. And we decided, again, the best way to do this is to give back to charity. So at the end of this month, on the 30th of April, Drew will be announcing the Zulu Time ModHanks charity drop. And what that will consist of is around 20 hanks will have been made with the Zulu Time podcast material print on one side and a camouflage pattern on the reverse.
Oh, that's rad.
The camouflage pattern is unique. This kind of combination will never be made again because it is actually US Marine Corps uniform camouflage pattern. The reason we have chosen that is because Drew has opted for all the money to go to the US Marine Corps charity, the Marine Raider Foundation. Okay, so the way it's going to work is on the 30th, Drew will put a highlight in his stories. You can drop him a DM and you can go onto his Etsy page and you can buy one of the handkerchiefs. They're going to be $25. And there's also going to be an option on there for you to tip extra. You don't have to use it, don't feel obliged, but if you want to, you can, okay? And pretty much, bar your postage money, all the money will be donated to the Marine Raider Foundation. Okay?
That's killer. So
that is the second Zulu Time podcast charity drop, as it were. And to be honest, I think that'll be it. I think I've done 2 drops, and I think that's how we'll leave it for now. If there is enough, if there's enough of a kickback out the back of this in terms of, people saying that they missed out or they didn't get a chance or they think it's a good idea, potentially that either in UK we'll look at doing another patch drop or we'll look potentially in the future to do another hank drop, but the idea, guys, is not for, for me to take money from the independent makers. It's to give back to charity and basically just get the designs out there. And that's it, really. So that's the next thing for us, and that's the thing that I wanted to plug under the quality assurance. So, go buy yourself something cool and give to charity at the same time.
Yeah, Dan, I think that's some awesome work that you're doing and stuff. And as an independent maker myself, I think that's a really cool approach as kind of bridging the two areas, like content creation plus independent maker. It's a win for both sides of the house. And I think that's a killer way of doing it. And you're right, it's not business, it's just cool.
I think so I spoke to an individual, he may work at Elliot Brown, and they summarized it really well. Their motto is, or unofficial motto is almost, it's nice to be nice. And I think like that's kind of, I really like that. What I mean? I said, in my own way, I can kind of justify it, and I'd say that it's my way of being nice, you know what I mean? And and like I said, if people are all on board for supporting these little drops, I think we'll continue to do them. But hopefully, people will get on board with this one, and we'll just see how it goes.
That's great. Well, I'm going to stick a fork in this episode, this UK and US edition of the Bellingham podcast. Thank you so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us wherever you like to get your podcast. Remember, if you are in the Bellingham area, you might be listening to us above ground on KMRE 102.3 FM or community streaming at kmre.org. Remember, if you listen to this episode and you like Dan's sultry alto voice like my own, check out his show, the Zulu Time Podcast, wherever you like to get your podcasts as well. From the city by the Salish Sea, I'm AJ Barsay.
And I'm Dan. See you later.
Cheerio.
Bye. For me, montane walking trousers / climbing mountaineering trousers is some of the best trousers I've ever... No idea what's happening outside. Absolutely no idea. You might have to edit that out.